Hey guys, my name is Caroline Richards, and the movie that I'm going to be analyzing today is Sweet Home Alabama. For those of you who have not seen it, this is a romantic comedy movie starring Reese Witherspoon, one of my favorite movies, but essentially the storyline of the movie is that Reese Witherspoon is working in the fashion industry in New York. She gets engaged to a really great guy who is a politician's son. And once she gets engaged, you find out that she is actually already married to someone from her hometown in Alabama that she hasn't spoken to in several years. So she has to go back to her hometown to try to get him to sign the divorce papers so that she can marry her new fiance. And while she's down there, you just find out a lot about their romantic history, and they argue a lot. It's clear that they don't get along, but that they have a really deep-rooted history and that they were childhood sweethearts, and that just that there's a lot of like family and friends and memories in that town. While she's down there, her new fiance actually comes to visit and ends up finding out that she's lied about her life and that she's already married, but they are able to work through that, and finally she does get her ex-husband to sign the divorce papers. But kind of the twist of the movie is that while she's down there, they end up reconnecting, and it turns out, you find out why they broke up in the first place, and it's because right out of high school he had gotten her pregnant, and that was unplanned, and she ended up losing the baby to miscarriage, but ended up actually feeling relieved about that because she wasn't ready to be a parent, and at that moment decided that she wanted to do something more with her life, so she moved to New York and started working in the fashion industry, and kind of lied about her background to the people that she met and just created this new life for herself. One thing that's interesting is that you find out towards the end that her former husband, or her previous husband, had actually come to New York at one point to see her because he's been in love with her for all of these years. But he saw that she was doing so well with her life, he knew that he needed to make something more of himself if he was going to ask her back. So he started his own company, and it's very successful, but he doesn't tell her about that, and she doesn't find out until the end. How the movie ends up is that she ends up leaving the politician's son for her former husband, and they get back together. In terms of character analysis, I think that she's really stubborn and really sassy, which makes her a pretty fun character to watch, but she's also pretty selfish. It does show that she lost connection with her parents when she moved to New York, and she's always trying to get them to come out there, but she really has avoided her hometown for a long time, and so when they want her to come home and she doesn't, it just creates a rift between them, and that has been going on for years. But then she comes back and she kind of remembers these are her roots, and she had wanted so badly to run away from her problems there, and kind of holds, it feels like just holds like this town kind of responsible for like holding her back, and that being back there is like kind of the opposite of what drives her success. But then as she comes back, kind of realizes like these are people that she grew up with and that she loves and cares about, and it's her family and whatever. So I think that she can be a little bit selfish, but I also think that her feelings of like not being ready to be a parent and just feeling like she's in this small town and she's getting pregnant right out of high school and she has dreams and wants to do different things, I think those feelings are totally valid. So I can definitely see where she's coming from. My advice to the character would have been to communicate more clearly and sooner, not just for her, but for her former husband. It seems like he's just kind of a martyr where he's really prideful and doesn't want to tell her that he wants her back, and doesn't share with her that he is working on himself. He kind of waits for the end result to speak for itself, and by that point she's already engaged to somebody else, and they've gone so many years without talking. So I think that, I know we've talked a lot in this class about like forgiveness and openness and honesty and communication, and I think all of that really applies here. Even though the movie ends happily and they do end up getting together at the end, I feel like there was a lot of kind of like heartache and time wasted that maybe could have been avoided if they had communicated a little bit better. So for example, I think her wanting to move away and start a new life is totally fine, but if he had communicated with her, I think if she had been more honest with him, like, hey, this is why I need to get away, like maybe they could have gone away together. If he had been more honest with her, like, hey, I know it's been some time and I am still thinking about you and I still want this to work and I really want to work on myself. Like, can we be successful together or can we work on this together? And, you know, she might have said no, and who knows, because this is fictional anyway, but I just think that sometimes you do have to kind of wait things out and wait for the right time, but in general, relationships require honesty and communication, and sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable and it seems easier just to run away. But I think ultimately, like, that does everybody involved a disservice because you're not able to actually work through things, and whether you end up, you know, getting together or not, you now have just kind of like these unresolved feelings that may cause you to take drastic measures or kind of act drastically to get away from your feelings. So I love this movie a lot. I'm glad that it ends happily, but I think that if it were in real life, going back and forth between these two different men and leaving somebody at the altar and like not talking to your parents for several years, I think would have caused a lot of damage that wouldn't be so easily repaired as it is in the movie. So I just think that it was important not just for her to be honest with her former husband about what she wanted, but really honest with her parents about what she's trying to do, and not in a way that puts them down or like shames them for their lifestyle or where they live. So ultimately that would be my advice for the character, but I know that it's easier said than done, and sometimes we just feel like we need a change of situation in order to kind of get to a better place personally, and I think that that's fine, but it's good to remember who you really care about and to not run away from relationships that are important to you, and I think that was kind of what I took away from the movie. And that's my analysis. Thanks for listening.